Good morning and welcome back after the holiday season in the Northern and Southern Hemisphere. This is Tim Selden, President of the Montessori Foundation, and this is our weekly series of webinars for Montessori school leaders and friends of Montessori everywhere. Today we have with us Barry Abrahams for the second time. Barry is an internet marketing expert. He's been doing a lot of stuff for the Montessori Foundation and the Newgate School as a friend of our organization just to show me what he's doing. And I've got to tell you, I'm impressed. He'll talk a little bit further today, but I want to give a personal testimonial. We have a lab school, as you know, called the Newgate School in Sarasota, Florida. I met Barry because one of the schools that we work with quite closely is the Norbeck School up in Rockville, Maryland. I've known those people for about 45 years. And Barry's been working with them, and the owners of the school have raved about him. And they told me to meet him, and I did. And he came over and he sat down with me in Florida. Fortunately, he lives not that far away on the other side of the state of Florida. And he started doing stuff. And as my wife puts it now, everywhere she goes, whatever she's doing, whenever she does a Google search, doesn't have to be for schools or Newgate or childcare or anything else. The Newgate School ad, very attractively designed, shows up. And she says it's very tasteful, and yet, boy, does it make me remember the name Newgate. So this is, I'm living testimonial that whatever Barry is telling us, it actually does seem to work. So, Barry, thank you for coming back and joining us again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Good. So for those of you who are attending for the first time or are a little out of practice, I want to remind you how the webinars work. First off, at the moment, all of you are muted except for Barry and myself. That's to prevent echoes or barking dogs, crying children, people popping into your office, whatever, from disrupting the flow of the webinar. However, if you have any question, if you look on the right side of your panel, you should see a thing that says questions. Type me an instant message, questions. We're very good at answering. If you would like to get online and speak to us directly, just say, hey, can you turn my mic on? I may not do it right that second if Barry's in the middle of something, but we try to make these conferences as lively as we can. By the way, Charlie Biggs, I see you're online. It might be your wife with you, but I wanted to appreciate you because I saw that you responded to something Barry sent out asking for feedback about the Montessori Foundation and what came in this morning, but something from your family. Thank you very much. So anyway, Barry, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us what you want to tell us.
Okay, all right. Well, good morning, everybody. And the presentation I put together for today is called Make Your Website More Effective. And I will just launch right into it.
Gosh knows, we all have websites.
Yes, and first of all, let's consider this question: how important is your website? After all, now we have Facebook and we have YouTube and we have email marketing, and is it still important? Like, or is it more of a 1990s kind of thing? Well, the answer is your website is tremendously important always. It is where a lot of people will get the first impression of your school. It's where a lot of people get the last impression of your school, actually. Sometimes they might hear about your school from an ad or they're researching local private schools. They'll look at your website and they might just give it 5 seconds, 5 or 10 seconds, and decide if this looks right, if this feels right, or if they should move on and start investigating some other school. So it is very important, and you want to use it, in the best way you can. And now, they say that the typical website converts at a rate of 2%. So 2 people out of 100 become good leads for a business, or good customers, depending on how you want to define conversion. If you can improve that 2% to a 3%, just get 1 more out of 100. That's not a 1% increase. That's actually a 50% increase in conversions. So that's pretty significant. And so I think that a really good goal for 2015 for Montessori schools would be to make your website a little bit better. Try to make it a little bit better so you get one more good lead out of 100 visitors, or just increase it. So more leads, more conversions. It's a very good goal. This is the outline of what I'd like to present. First of all, just a little window into some professional techniques. There are some very highly paid and expert people that get hired by major corporations like Lowe's and Walmart and Dell Computer, to make their websites work better. It's a big money business. A lot of e-commerce business is done these days, and there's a real study, the real science of what works, what doesn't. There's a lot of research going on into what makes websites more effective, and so I'm going to just show you a couple of little techniques that they use that could be helpful. Then I'm going to talk about some specific checks you can make to your site, just things to think about, when you look at the website that you have now. Then I'm going to talk about using Google Analytics for improvement. Google Analytics is a great tool, and it can be a bit overwhelming and a little complex, but I'm going to show you a very simple way to use it so that it can really be a helpful tool. So I will get right into the first part now, a window into professional techniques. Okay. I already kind of explained that a little. First thing, creating a persona. This is something that that they do, the real experts. They'll create a fictitious character that has characteristics that your potential customers might have. And for the sake of this webinar, I created this one right here. Meet Greg. Greg is a trial attorney who spends about 18% of the year traveling for work. He is recently divorced and has custody of his 4-year-old daughter, June. When he travels, June stays with his mother or with his ex-wife, June's mother. He's concerned about how June is adapting to the new family situation and wants to find a school that has a warm and nurturing environment. So I wrote this just as a sample of this technique. And what they will do is create 3 to 8 personas like this, and then they will look at the website and consider the concerns and circumstances of these different personas. Now, here's another approach to it without making a specific, fictional character. But you can consider that some people look at things more logically, some people more emotionally. They just want to get the right feeling. Some people are very quick when they make their decisions or do their research. They just look for bullet points. Other people are more deliberate. They like to read everything, really be thorough, take their time. And also with personas, you want to consider these issues right here. How much do they need what you're offering? In the case of Greg, the one I created, he definitely needs a school. He absolutely needs to find a school. It doesn't have to be a Montessori school, but he needs to find some school that he feels like has the right environment. Risk. How much risk are they feeling? In the case of my character, Greg, he's not feeling a lot of risk because he has the financial resources that, so he's not really worried about the financial part of it. And also he feels like if it doesn't work out, he could find another solution. So he feels like there's some flexibility and he could, that's the way he feels. Other parents, of course, might feel like, it is a high-risk decision because the tuition cost might be steep for them for what they can afford, and they might feel like it might really be weighing that, is it going to be worth that investment? Knowledge. For Greg, knowledge is key. He wants to know what the classroom situation is like. He wants to meet some of the faculty. He wants to know how discipline is conducted. He wants to know everything about the environment, day to day at the school and the classroom. And consensus. For Greg, consensus is not an issue because he has sole custody of his daughter and he can make the decision himself. But for a lot of parents, I think consensus is probably a very big issue for Montessori schools, because you can have the attention of one parent and have one parent really excited about the school and feel like it's the right solution for their child, but they have to convince the other parent. And so you want to consider these things when you look at your website. And with consensus, for example, if they need to make the case to someone else, are you giving them enough information to help them do that? What could you do to help them even more for that? So, Tim, how would you consider these elements for Montessori school?
Well, I think that many Montessori schools make the mistake of just assuming that because the parent's willing to apply and pay the tuition that they ought to accept them. And I think that the average parent is not really in tremendous need other than for childcare or to escape a situation in another school or the public schools that they don't like. The question is, how much do they really want us? And I think it's important, because Montessori is so different, that the desire, the consensus, for example, consensus between them and us is critical. Consensus between both parents is incredibly important. And I think that they may or may not have much knowledge. It's very difficult to get them to understand Montessori. Most of us tell ourselves and each other that the parents in our school rarely show up for parent ed, that most of them don't really know what's going on. They don't appreciate why they should stay for kindergarten. So I'd say the more knowledge we can give them, the better. And the problem is, once they're in the school, most of them, and I'm not all, but I'd say the overwhelming majority just started taking you for granted and resenting you because they're having to pay a tuition every month or every quarter, every semester, every year. And if anything, they're just waiting for something to aggravate them enough to justify the decision to move. So I think knowledge from the beginning really helps.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, all right. I'm going to talk a little bit more about knowledge in a minute, but the next little principle when it comes to just professional website optimization I'm going to mention is this: maintaining scent. When we go online and start clicking around here, click around there, we have a problem. We're looking for a solution. Or we have a question, we're looking for an answer, and we kind of follow a scent. We search, and then we click on this, and we're just looking for whatever it is that we're looking for. Sometimes we get distracted, though, and we start following another scent. But, we are kind of on the hunt, looking for something. And so you want to consider how your website maintains scent, basically, so you don't lose them. And this is the sequence right here that you want: awareness, interest, desire, action, satisfaction. So if they're looking at your website, you have the awareness. But does your website have something that's going to grab their interest? I think there are a lot of websites out there that just look very bland, and if you look at their homepage, there just isn't anything that grabs you. There isn't anything that really speaks to you, makes you feel anything, makes you think anything. And so I think that's a good thing to look at right there, is if they're looking at your website, is there something to grab their interest right there, that they don't have to scroll to see something right there in front of them when they first take a glance? And is there something to create desire? what's the value of what you're offering? Is it showing through right away? And so I think that's a good thing to think about. And you don't want to lose them, basically. You don't want to lose them. You might get their awareness, you might get their interest, but if they're not seeing any value, enough value for them, you might lose them right there. So think about your website and think about maintaining scent. And just one other little thing I want to throw into this section. This is called the Johari Window. It was invented by two guys, one named Joe and one named Harrington. And so they called it Johari Window. And this has to do with knowledge. Since we're just talking about knowledge, I think this is a great little exercise. You have 4 quadrants, and they all have to do with knowledge. The top left quadrant is the open quadrant. That represents things known to both the school and the prospective customer, a new client, new parent. Okay, known by both. The upper right quadrant are things only known by the parent, the prospective customer. The bottom left quadrant, things only known by the school. And then the lower right quadrant, things that are unknown to both, like the future or anything that's just unknown to both. So I'm going to put a little information just to give you an example of how this can be useful. In the top right quadrant, these are things known by the potential customer. One is that they're cash poor at the moment. They just made a large investment, and so at the moment they're not really in a position to make a big payment for school. Also, their child has food allergies. So those are some things that the parent knows. The school doesn't know that about about their situation. And then in the lower left quadrant, things known by the school are that they have a payment program and that the kitchen staff can safely accommodate special requirements. Now these are very basic. I don't run a Montessori school myself, and so I don't know all the different types of things, qualities school could have or things a parent might be thinking of, but this is just a little example of this exercise, and the purpose of it is to expand the open quadrant. So you want to get more knowledge known by both. So here I put now it's known by both. Financing may be needed and a payment plan is available. Some children have food allergies. Kitchen staff can accommodate special diet requests. But what you want to do here is consider what issues might potential customers be concerned with that you don't normally think about. And look at how your website could mention those things. So I think that's a good exercise. And also consider what are some great features of your school that are not mentioned anywhere in your website. I'll bet you anything that everyone listening to this that runs a Montessori school, I bet you there are some wonderful features to your school that just aren't going to be known by potential customers because they're not mentioned on the website. Things about the school building, the faculty, staff, different programs, playtime, classroom, equipment, financial options, history of your school. So that's a good exercise. Think of just some of the great things about your school that more people should know about, and consider how you can incorporate those into your website.
By the way, that sounds like the kind of thing that you could either do a charrette, where you just invite anyone who's interested to stop off after school begins on a particular day or to come in early and just sit around and chat about, let's take a look at our website. Think about what you most wanted to know when you were first looking for a school, and think about what we don't have on the website or what we don't explain clearly, and just have someone sitting there taking good notes of what people are saying and then making up a checklist of things to have your website developer change on your website.
Exactly. It's so important to do this stuff, because just getting that one extra, one other lead out of 100 makes a big difference. So absolutely, it's very important, and I think that's a great idea.
Let me stop
Okay,
you
just
there on one other thing. Something that all of us who
okay.
lead schools know is we don't have that many kids. The largest Montessori school has maybe 1,500 kids in the United States and Canada. Most Montessori schools have fewer than 300 kids. Many have fewer than 150 kids. If you make one more sale, it is truly significant. If you keep one more family for one more year, or if you get one more good qualified family to apply that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise by doing the right things, that's income that really counts. Now, if you're full every year, no matter how much you charge and no matter what, you've always got a full house, that's different. But most Montessori schools don't have that experience. They work hard, and most people worry about enrollment every year. So this is very important stuff.
And just getting way off the topic here, but the review system that we're using for Newgate, uh, I think really can help considering the situation you just described, because getting feedback to find out exactly what their thoughts are, their complaints might be, or that can be very valuable for keeping a customer, because it's actually a lot cheaper to keep a customer than it is to get a new customer.
Yep.
Okay, but just to summarize what I just talked about, and I think these concepts are really good to just think about when you try to improve your website. You don't have to spend a lot of time doing these, but just consider how you might apply the technique. Personas, think of various concerns and circumstances your prospective customers are in. Consider how your website speaks to them. Maintaining scent. Is your website keeping them interested in the great qualities of your school? Does it create desire that leads to action? And the Johari Window, what more can you learn about them? What more can they learn about your school? Just get more knowledge into that open quadrant. Okay.
Barry, I'm sure at the end of this you'll send me a copy of the slideshow, and we'll put that onto the website um, along with the recording of this, so that people can look at this in greater detail. Right?
Absolutely. Yep, I certainly will.
Great.
Yep, I'll send you. And okay, 8 specific website checks. Actually, there's going to be 9, so I had trouble whittling it down. But this one is not a conversion optimization tip. This is a search engine optimization tip, but it's so simple and important that I'm throwing it in here. Put your city and state in the page title of all of your web pages. The page title is what shows in the browser tab way up there at the top. Now, not many people read what's there, but search engines definitely do, and it's a factor for search engine optimization. So you really want to have your city and state in the page title. I have there a little, here you can see this little picture of the code and where the title is in the code, but chances are someone else is doing your website for you, and they should know what that means, the page title. So make sure that your city and state is in the page title for every web page. Let's see. Okay, relevance. The first thing you want your website to do is make a visitor feel like they're in the right place. And a lot of marketers call the top left area of the page the golden triangle, because that's where the human eye tends to go first. And so you want to look in that upper left area and look at what it says. It should make it very plain, what it is you are. This is the Newgate website, and here you see a nice logo. It says Newgate Montessori IB, shows some links. I think it would be a good idea to actually have the word school there. Even though you can look at this and get an idea that it's a school, it's someone goes to your site and right away their eye goes to the top left area, and you want them to feel like they're in the right place. So it's a good idea to just say, you know, Montessori school, but that's just something to think about when you look at your website. Value proposition. You know, at first glance, what does someone see that shows value? Here at the Newgate site, I see nurturing and inspiring curious, creative, and gifted minds. So that's a good. I think that's good, and that's just something I think you should look at your website and think about. What just jumps out at you? What can you see very quickly that says we have something of value to you? Call to action is important. You want to tell them to do something. Tell them to download, you know, a PDF with information or about admissions. Learn more about our school is a call to action. That could be a link, or it could be a form where someone might put in their name and email address for someone to contact them from the school. Call to schedule a visit is a call to action. Tells them what to do. Learn about the Montessori way, okay, but these are just some examples I came up with, but it's a really good idea just to tell them what to do next. Convey openness. I think there are way too many websites out there that look very polished and neat, but they don't really let you feel like you're seeing anything. You know, they're clip art images, and you know, people really they want to see what it is. Really, that's just a great marketing principle right there. They want to see, you know, before to get them more interested, they want to see. So I think it's a good idea to have pictures of, you know, of a teacher and students in a classroom. I would like to see that. If I'm a parent looking for a school, I'd like to see the classroom. You know, I'd like to see. You want to spark their imagination. You want them to think, okay, can I envision my child in that classroom, you know, with that teacher? So images are really important for that. But even beyond images, you know, just give them information that's just very open and appears authentic. So definitely check your website for that. Convey emotion. Like I mentioned earlier, some people really make decisions based on getting the right feeling, the gut feeling, and there's a lot of feeling that can come across from a good image. You know, it's hard not to see boys and girls smiling, laughing together, or arm in arm, or playing, and not feel something. You know, if a feeling comes through that's warm, that's definitely a good thing. So I would check your website and just see if there's anything that's emotional coming through. You don't want to just make it too logical. Okay. Website load time is very important. There is a ton of research that says that people don't really want to wait for slow loading websites. And so the longer it takes for your website to load, the more business just gets lost. That's an equation that you can really depend on. There are a lot of tools that can check this. If you Google website speed testing tools, you'll find all kinds of tools. Here's one right here, though. The site is tools.pingdom.com. And I'm a little bit, you know, I'm reluctant to say what I think is, you know, what's good enough. The faster the better is what you want, really. And I've heard it said that 1 second over DSL is good. It's going to be slower if it's if it's not a DSL connection. But if your page loads in 1 second on DSL, that's pretty good. And I would just say the faster the better. A slower loading page just means lost business. And this gets to kind of what you were mentioning, Tim, earlier. List as many improvement ideas as you can think of. Ask others to do it too. Just come up with dozens and dozens of things that could be better. You know, space that could be used better. You know, better calls to action, better images. Then prioritize them based on the difficulty of implementation and the possible benefit to be gained. So look at that big list and consider what you can do, quickly and easily, and what might be a little more of a challenge, and just sort of prioritize in that way. And last one, mobile device appearance. This is really important because more and more people constantly are using their mobile device for the web instead of their desktop, laptop, or even tablet. And people are using their mobile devices, and so it's crucially important that your website comes through pretty well on a mobile device. There is something in the last couple of years called responsive design that some websites are built with, where the layout will change depending on the device. So that could be good if you have a website that has responsive design. Or you can just have a mobile version of your website that will just show the key information and the key links, and also a call button. So sometimes that's a really good thing to have, a call button. That way, instead of them having to look for a phone number, trying to write it down, and then dial it on their phone, they can just hit a button with their thumb and it'll start the phone ringing. So, okay, those are some website checks.
Barry, you may be planning to talk about this before the end of the webinar, but I know that one of the things that schools struggle with is two things. One is, who the heck is going to create the website? Because it's usually done by a parent volunteer. 2 years later, they're gone, or it's done by the head of school's husband or child or something like that. And again, 2 years later, that person is so busy they don't have the time to keep up with it. Or it's done by us, and 2 years later, we don't have the time to keep up with it. That's the case, for example, at Newgate. So one of the issues that you were talking about is it's really important to make your website engaging, to keep on top of it. You haven't really talked about new content, but obviously you want to make sure the links aren't broken and that you're not still promoting something that happened 2 years ago as an upcoming event. How does the school solve these problems? What should they anticipate paying for it? How important is it?
Well, like you said, it's a real problem if someone creates your site and then they're not around anymore, not available anymore, and then what are you going to do? The answer to at least several of the issues you just mentioned, I think my advice is have your website built on WordPress. WordPress is what they call a CMS, a content management system. And I know that what we use for the foundation and for Newgate is also a content management system. A content management system is, well, frankly, the web has just become so complex. Websites used to be very simple. You had a little text, you put an image, but now the web is capable of so much functionality. It's incredible. And so what you really need is a system that has a front end and a back end. A content management system has a front end and a back end. The front end is what people see. The back end is it's kind of just like say a toy store. It's got a front end and it's got a back room. The back room is where all the storage is. The front is how things are displayed. And these systems, and especially WordPress, are very well set up and real quality systems. I heard that over 20% of the world's websites now are built on WordPress. It's an open source, free system, and I would highly advise that whoever creates your site does so on WordPress. And that way, if that person isn't around anymore, you won't have to look very far to find someone else that can step in that knows WordPress. So that's the very first piece of advice I would give. And I work with some web designers. You could get in touch with me, and I could recommend some people to you that I think do a really good job with WordPress design. Here's the second tip. Okay, the first one is have your site built on WordPress. The second tip is with WordPress, the theme that you use, they call it a theme. The theme is a certain style of site. There are many, many different kinds of themes. There are thousands of them available. Some of them are free. Some of them you have to pay for. But the theme that your site is built on, the WordPress theme, is important. And some of them actually come with support. So the only theme I use has excellent support. And whenever I have a problem with a site and I don't know the answer, I'd email in and I get a response quickly. They tell me exactly what to do to fix it, and that's very convenient. So having a WordPress theme that's built well and has customer support is great also.
And what about the ongoing content? I mean, there's the building of the site and keeping it running, and presumably the person who's actually putting updated content, you know, changing the list of the faculty, making sure the picture is displaying right, putting up newsletters. Somebody's got to be doing that. And it's usually either a parent volunteer or a secretary, but any advice as to how to make that website work for you in terms of both? You've already talked about doing the sort of checking out of what does the website tell people now that we want to do even better, and what is it not telling that we should be telling? You've mentioned that. Any other advice about making that website hum for you?
Well, as you say, I mean, it does need to be maintained. It should be kept current, and ideally, you'll want to have somebody that's competent that can just manage it for you. And as far as finding, I'm going to give you a great tip. As far as finding people, one thing you can do is go to elance.com. Have you ever used elance.com, Tim?
No, I've never heard of it. Elance.
Yeah, elance.com. I'm trying to load it here.
It's like freelance.
Yeah, elance.com connects you with freelancers all over the world. I've hired people in India and Bangladesh and, to do all kinds of things like graphic design. It's a really good system. It's very well built, and what you can do is post a job. You could say, I'm looking for a WordPress web designer to work with me on a regular basis, to keep my school website updated, etc. And then you'll get responses from all over the world. People saying, here's my resume. Here are some other sites that I've created, and so I'm gonna see if I can actually log in. Let's see.
As an aside, I assume these people in India and China are charging rates that are pretty high by American standards, but worth a fortune to them where they're living, where the cost of living is much lower and the dollar is strong.
It does vary quite a bit. I mean, you get some very low offers. You get people offering to work for very little money. Sometimes you get what you pay for, but it's a very well-structured setup. The money goes into escrow at first, and it's released by you based on your satisfaction. And I recommend people check it out and give it a try. And when you have some small project, just give it a try. Hire somebody. I have had very good luck using Elance. I've found some wonderful people that have done great work. I've found some mediocre work also. And there was one time I was very unhappy, and there is when you're really unhappy with the work that's done, there is a process that you can go through, that says, I don't think that this person did the work they were supposed to do, and it was resolved without any problem at all. And so it's a good way to find people to help you get work done.
I've got a question that came in from Jeannie Schultz. She says, how do you know which theme offers technical support in WordPress? Do you have to pay subscriptions for the service?
Well, you should be able to just investigate the theme. There's the creator of the theme will have a website probably with a lot of information, and they should let you know right there what kind of customer support it has. Sometimes they just have a forum, where if you have an issue, somebody else might have had the same issue, and so you look for that. But I prefer it where I could just email in and get an answer back to my specific problem. And a subscription service, the company I use. And by the way, I'll tell you who they are right now. If you go to expand2web.com, and it's a number 2 in the middle, that's the 2. So expand, the number 2, and then web.com. They make a theme. They make a couple themes actually. They're the only ones that I use. They're really good people, and the products are solid, and they have excellent support. Now, if you purchase the theme, I'm not sure how. I'm a lifetime member of this of their group. They have actually like a coaching group also. I'm a lifetime member of that, and so I'm not sure if you just purchase the theme, how long you're able to get the support. I'm not really sure, to be honest. So, but that's something to investigate.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about using Google Analytics. A lot of businesses and schools are using analytics, but they're not really benefiting from it because they don't know how to benefit from it. They look at it once in a while and just kind of get overwhelmed by it. And I used to be intimidated by it myself when I started getting into this stuff. I was a little intimidated by it, and I used to kind of think of it like this. It just seemed like this monster, and I just didn't know how I was ever going to master it. There's just so much data there. It just goes so far this way, that way. But now I see it a little more like this. In any given grocery store, there are hundreds of products, thousands of products probably, and I ignore most of them. I just go get a couple things that I need, ignoring everything else. So that's the good way to think of analytics. Not only can you ignore most of what's there, you should ignore most of what's there. It's about just getting a few things. And just to let you know, if you're not already using Google Analytics, this is how you can start. It's free to use it. You go to google.com/analytics, click create an account, and it's a pretty simple process, but part of it is having to add this little bit of ugly code on all of your web pages. And if this code is on all of your web pages, then you'll have tracking, you'll have loads and loads of information about the activity that happens on your website. And if you're using WordPress, you can get a plugin. Plugins are little programs that work along with WordPress, and there's a plugin. There are all kinds of plugins actually for adding Google Analytics code. So you get the plugin, you add the code into the plugin, and you're all set for using analytics. One thing you should do though, after you set up the basics, the basic tracking code, you should set up a goal. You want to have some kind of objective for people coming to your site. What it usually is a page view. I put an arrow there. It says destination, and it says example, thanks. For example, if you're selling something on your website and someone goes there, they make the purchase, and then after they make the purchase, they get to a page that says thank you for making the purchase. You know, for e-commerce, that page view, the thank you page, is your goal. And so you can look at analytics and you can say, okay, 4% of my visitors made the purchase and reached the thank you page. But you can also set a goal that's duration, how many minutes on your site. You could say, I want people to spend 3 minutes on my site. That's an indication that it's valuable traffic to me. They stayed for a while. They were doing some investigation. Or how many pages they look at. You could say I have a goal of people. I want people to see 3 or more pages because that means they're engaged. And I'll show you in a minute just how valuable that information is. Here are some metrics that are valuable, and you don't need to set up goals to see, well, except for the one that says goal completion. But bounce rate is very valuable. That tells you what percentage of your visitors are leaving without looking at any other pages. So you want your bounce rate to be low. That's an indication that people are finding, they're finding interesting things on your site and looking around, spending time. Time on site, how much time they're spending, how many pages they're looking at, and these metrics, just in general for your site, are really not that valuable. For example, if it says if your website has a bounce rate of 50%, that's interesting, but it doesn't help you that much. What really helps you is to see these metrics by segments. This is the real benefit of analytics right here. Seeing certain metrics like bounce rate and goal completion rate by segment, by device. On desktop computers, what's your bounce rate? On mobile smartphones, what's your bounce rate? What's your goal completion rate? By gender, traffic source. In this example, Google traffic has a bounce rate of 19%. Facebook traffic has a bounce rate of 40%. So, you can deduce from that your Google traffic is better traffic. It's engaging more with your site. You can look at it by different landing page. Certain blog articles might be leading to more goal completions. Days of the week.
So just as an aside, Barry, you're into some fairly technical ideas here, and now we're into the kinds of things that you as a company really do for your clients. You're helping them to understand how to interpret the data. You're setting it up so the data is being collected automatically, and you're trying to help them to improve their general strategies. And I wanted to point this out before we end because Barry, we've just had a question again from Gene asking how do you set up a portal on WordPress that will take them to teacher information. And I suspect you're not talking about a normal page, Gene, where it just says this is the name of the teacher and a picture and this is where he or she went to school. You're talking about more of maybe a forum or a conversation area where parents can log into the site. And the answer is you need a website designer, someone who really knows, whether using WordPress or some other software. You're talking about adding in security levels and usernames and passwords, and then training the staff how to use it. Barry, your work is on increasing sales, driving traffic to the site, making the site work better in terms of increasing sales and satisfaction, and encouraging people to do things on the website from a point of view of content that bring customers back, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm a marketer and not a designer. I do build a website here or there, and I build a real nice website. And I can do that for people, and I do sometimes. But my specialty really is the overall marketing approach and strategy, different ways to get traffic. I'm definitely a search engine specialist.
Yeah.
I'm certified as a pay-per-click specialist. That's one of the things I do. But I have several things I offer. But designing, being your web designer, your webmaster is not one of the main things I do. But,
Right.
uh,
Sophia, by the way, has asked a question that is more tied in with what you do. She's asking, does Google Analytics give us those metrics by segment? And I just want to underscore that Barry has written the book and often is asked to speak and do seminars around the country about internet marketing. And again, I never thought any Montessori school would choose to do internet pay-per-click marketing, although I hear companies are calling me up all the time saying, hey, we'll do search engine optimization for your school's website. You aren't ranked highly enough. And every once in a while a parent will snipe at someone who's running a school saying, hey, you guys aren't professionals. You search for preschools in Camden, New Jersey, and you don't come up to the top of the list. And you need to hire someone to do it. Barry is one of those people who companies hire to not just do one part of it, but lots of different parts of how do you use the internet to create much more demand for your business. And one of the things that surprises me about what Barry does is he's got an access to a level of marketing that does not have the huge lead time. When I place a print ad, I'm normally placing it 2 months in advance. And it normally costs me, I mean, I don't know about your school. A lot of schools don't spend much money on marketing and they depend on word of mouth, which is not generally a good idea. But I have traditionally spent about $20,000 to $50,000 a year on paid marketing. And, frankly, as the years have gone by, less and less of it is producing results that I can really measure. What I appreciate about what Barry's doing for the schools that he's working with that I'm talking to, and what I'm beginning to notice at our little lab school where he's offered to demonstrate in real time what happens is this is a very fast way of implementing a strategy that will hopefully lead to an increased number of people visiting the site and selling. And he's got a lot of information, which, in answer to Sophia's question, one of the things that I've noticed that Barry does is he provides very, very detailed information to his clients about what exactly is going on. While I'm interrupting, I'm looking at a couple of other things. Jeannie, I'm seeing you've asked. Jeannie is saying no. I didn't mean a private portal to speak to the teachers. I meant someplace that would give homework and classroom information. And the answer, Jeannie, is again, you want a website designer to set it up, but it's not hard. The only issue is it public information or do you want it password protected? That's all. And she's saying, my mind is flying ahead of the conversation, as it should, Jeannie. Barry, back to you. I know we're beginning to run out of time. You've got a lot of things you want to cover. Please, back to you, sir.
Actually, I'm just about through what I wanted to cover. But yes, I agree what you said though. Uh, WordPress, just about anything you can imagine that you want your site, any kind of feature, such as making it a forum site, a discussion site, or a private, where you have to log in to access the pages. There's all that kind of functionality for WordPress. There are thousands and thousands of what they call plugins that are just programs meant to deliver different functionality to WordPress. So again, for that purpose, and just about any purpose you have for a website, I recommend using WordPress and finding someone that to help you with it.
I think that last point you're making is absolutely critical. I'm speaking from my own experience. I'm pretty good with the web. I've used pretty sophisticated online software for years. Joomla, for example, is the content management system I've used. And one of the things I've learned is, one, even if you know what you're doing, usually the head of school doesn't have the time to do it. You don't have the time to train people how to do it. You're doing it more trial and error. You need to find someone who will do it. And the other thing about WordPress or any other free software is it gets out of date. As computer systems update, Windows Server updates to new versions, and WordPress, keeps giving out new updates. If you don't keep everything up to date, your system will begin to crash. And that's what happened when we made the switch, by the way, from WordPress to what we're using at Newgate now. That's why we did it. It's a comprehensive, the people that make the software handle all of that stuff for us. But the alternative way is the way, Barry, you're talking about it, which is find somebody who will do that for your school and will do it year after year, so you don't have to go out and start from scratch and teach someone how to do it. I also want to make another plug for Barry. When I met him, he was working with one school that I knew. And I had a conversation with him by phone. He came over, he sat down with me at Newgate at my office here. We had a long conversation. I asked if he wanted to do a webinar. We did a webinar, as you may recall, back in November or early December. It was great. A lot of you asked for more of it. Barry's agreed to do a series of them. But along the way, something happened. And that was that Barry said, you know what? I really enjoy working with the school that I've been working with, Norbeck Montessori up in Rockville. And, it sounds to me like a lot of Montessori schools have common needs. And I would like to begin to zero in my practice as much as I can on an industry that I can really get to understand, because the better I understand it, the more powerfully I can use the skills and the tools that I have. And I really appreciate, I've been watching you, Barry, over the last 2 months as your own understanding of Montessori has grown and your ability to zero in on how do we message. So again, I encourage any of you who are feeling a need for this kind of help to talk to Barry, see whether or not he makes sense for you. We don't get anything out of it. I'm not Barry's partner. I'm always out here looking for people who I think can be really helpful to Montessori schools, and it looks to me like Barry is one of the most interesting new people to come along in a long time. So Barry, now you're into the stuff that you really do.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that recommendation. I appreciate that, and I am excited to work with Montessori schools, and what's exciting is that there is some you can sort of take what you learn and apply it. There's, for example, the pay-per-click campaigns, and a lot of the data that I've accumulated from working with the one Montessori school, I can apply that and sort of have a head start for some other ones. And so there's some replicability that can be applied from these different methods. But but just to sort of wrap up my analytics, this might seem like I'm getting really complicated, and it might seem kind of intimidating for analytics. Well, let me go back again and just say there really isn't that much to what I'm saying here. If you want to try to do it yourself, you create the account. You do have to have a way of adding that tracking code to your pages, and just from that you can get a tremendous amount of data.
And as I recall, you set up the account, and then one of the tabs is get the code, and you copy it to your clipboard, right? And then you paste it into the content on your website as the code, not as visible words on the screen, but
right,
as the HTML.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you know how to do that, great. If you're using WordPress, there's you can get a simple plugin that'll make that very easy. But one way or another, yeah, you have to have a way of getting that code on the pages. Setting up a goal is optional, but it is recommended. It's helpful if you can get that information in there and see goal completion by segment. But basically, once you have it running, you just can get all of this very easily. You can see these different metrics by segment, and And what you really want to look for are the things that look really bad and the things that look really good. For example, it says the bounce rate here for mobile smartphones is 91%. That tells you that people really don't like your website when they're looking at it on a mobile smartphone. So that's lets you know how you can improve. You can improve the appearance. You can get a mobile version of your site. That's the easiest thing.
So
And
again, on
traffic
that,
source, I guess.
Barry, I gather no one gets 100%. I'm sorry, a 0% bounce rate. I mean, every website gets a certain number of people who take a look and just leave.
Right.
What's a good number to look for?
Well, Norbeck actually has a very impressively low bounce rate normally. You know, if it's in the 20%, you know, area, 20%, 25%, 30%, that's a pretty impressive bounce rate, I think, because that tells you that about 3/4 of the people coming are looking at more than one page, so you're getting good traffic. And so that's a good, the lower the better, but I mean, if it's 60% right now, you want to make it 50. You know, make it a little bit better. The key to really benefiting from your website is to just try to make little improvements and just set realistic goals and just try to make it a little, you know, try to get that one more out of 100 to become a good lead for your school. So
That's great. Barry, I've got a couple of really interesting questions here.
okay.
Actually, just one. This is from Sherry Holtzman. Sherry says, does Barry have the ability to help market Montessori on a larger scale, not necessarily just for individual schools, but on the scale of lobbying legislatures? Now, Sherry, I'm going to answer part of that right now. Barry is not in what he does right now. He's not really oriented to the issue of lobbying. I don't know if you're planning to join us later today. I know you're one of the IMC state delegates, as I recall. We are going to be holding just that basic orientation of how to be a good advocate at 12:30 East Coast time. We had talked about doing a second one today at 3:30 with Cindy Acker, but I never sent out the invitation. So she and I agreed last night we'll pick a date next week, and I'll be sending out an email to all the advocates. But I am working on finding state real lobbying software, and there is a thing called Salsa that the foundation is looking at getting as its master database, and it is a tool used for grassroots and statewide and national lobbying, and I'll be talking more about that even a little bit later today, because we're zeroing in on making a decision by next week. But Barry, in terms of, is there anything that you do have the ability to do that might be useful for Montessori as a whole, is I guess their question.
Well, that's really a good question, and I'll have to give that some thought.
Maybe you and I can chat as well, and let's come back to everybody maybe with a suggestion. I can tell you that the groups out there that are working to lobby on behalf of Montessori as a whole, as opposed to promoting just their particular organization's brand of teacher training, are, of course, the Association Montessori International, the American Montessori Society. The Montessori Foundation is a sort of the neutral group that's out there. We do market, of course, our own courses and webinars, but we don't do teacher training per se. We do more administrative development through the things that we do, but we don't even certify administrators. We're definitely out there promoting it. And Barry, you're out there trying to help us become better at what we're doing, which in a way comes to what Sherry's interested in. But the foundation under that same umbrella is looking to upgrade its tools that we have to get the state organizations to be able to really respond massively by getting parents to petition and having the lists of all the current legislators from the city level up to the national level of government. But Barry, you and I can maybe chat more about what you are doing and can do to
Okay.
make Montessori itself as a whole more visible.
What intrigues me to think about on that subject is, when I think that one problem is people don't know what it is. They don't know what it means, the Montessori. I think a lot of people don't know what it means, and so it intrigues me that I am a marketer. I love marketing, and so that's where my mind went right away. I just thought maybe an area that can be improved on is just sort of simplifying a message about exactly what it means. Am I onto something there, Tim? Or
Yeah, I think that that's a big issue, and I'll share some stuff that's been done thus far. Many of the people listening may be aware that the Trust for Learning has done some really important strategic work over the last couple of years to carry forward ideas that the foundation was promoting for really 20 years. That's the idea of getting AMS and AMI and the other major organizations in Montessori, including the International Montessori Council, Montessori Foundation, MEPI, to the table, NAMTA, really working together. And one of the things they've been working on with us is attempting to help us to refine our message. And there's some content that's come out of that is beginning to be used by organizations. And Barry, I'll share that with you, and maybe we can figure out some strategies of how can we push that more. That also sounds like an interesting upcoming workshop to do for this part of this webinar series, which is just sort of how do you define Montessori on a bigger scale in your own communication with parents, as well as in advertising and in your online marketing. So wrapping today up, and by the way, I see one more question. This is about a search engine optimization operation. It's Deborah Kelly wrote this. She says, does SEO by Yoast do anything different than what Google Analytics does?
Yes, it's a totally different thing.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Well, SEO is search engine optimization, and that's the process of trying to make your web pages more visible when people search. And there's a lot to SEO, and it's a very big area. It's a very big industry, actually, search engine optimization. Analytics is something completely different. It's simply measurement and tracking. It's just knowing what activity is happening on your website, what traffic you're getting, and where it's coming from. Is it coming from YouTube? Is it coming from Facebook? Is it coming from people just typing in the website address of your school and going that way? How are they behaving on your site? How much time are they spending? What pages are they looking at? How many pages are they looking at? And all kinds of data related to that. You know, are they viewing the page that you set as a goal completion page, like a thank you page? Are they taking the action you want them to take? So it's all about activity on your website, and it's a tool just for making improvements. Like if you look at what I'm showing on my screen right now, you know, there's some actionable data there. It's all about making an action list. Analytics is about making a list of things to do to try to improve. By looking at this data here, someone would definitely want to make sure they have a better mobile website, because the bounce rate is showing that people just don't really like it. They leave quickly.
So I guess Deborah's question then is, should she be looking into SEO by Yoast, or is that part of the stuff that you do?
Well, it's SEO, like I said, is a big area. I'm not sure exactly what Yoast is offering, but when it comes to SEO, there's two parts of it. There's the on-page and then there's off-page. On-page is the stuff that you actually put on your site. Like you create a blog article, you put your location in the page title. Like I said, it's all the stuff you control on your site. And then there's off-page SEO, which has to do with links, our other sites around the web linking to your site. The best SEO strategy is to create good content on a regular basis. Have articles about your school, have a blog. That's the very best thing. So having a blog and putting good informative information into articles on a regular basis, that's about the best thing you can do for SEO. So I can't really tell you much about what Yoast is offering. I'm not very familiar with it. But I am a search engine specialist, and when it comes to SEO, I am a consultant. I can tell you what you need to do, and I can give you a really good report that just sort of delves into a lot of aspects of how you're showing on the web from an SEO perspective. But I also advise you on local search results and paid ads, because there's actually 3 different parts of a search results page that you want to try to show up in.
Barry, before you log off, can you go to your browser and look up the Newgate website and find the testimonial page? I think it would be worth people just taking a look at that.
Okay.
What we do at Newgate, by the way, folks, is we have ambassadors, and we recommend this to all schools. These are people who love your school enough that they're willing to receive emails and phone calls from people who are interested in your school, and they want to talk to a parent who's a current customer and is satisfied. So one of the things that they also do is they'll search for your school, and what we usually come up in the search is ratings and reviews and criticisms about you. Private School Review, GreatSchools.com is another one of them. But one of the strategies that Barry has is this whole system of trying to get testimonials, referrals, and ratings that are posted in various places about your school. And yeah, there's Newgate. It looks like it loaded slowly, which may be an issue. We'll have to take a look at that. But
Well, it might be because of the webinars. It might be my own personal bandwidth issue here. So
yeah,
it might not be your server. It might be okay. But yeah, I'll scroll down, and these are all coming from the system that I set up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're recent. That one's from January 6th. That one's from December 18th. These are feedback responses to emails that were sent out.
By the way, I don't know what other people are seeing. Yeah, now I'm starting to see them. So those are ratings, and then there's some words underneath. You can see Rachel wrote a fair amount. So those are appearing automatically. If they give us a certain number of stars, they will automatically show up on the page, and you have the ability to turn them off individually if you want, because you get a notice every time. I typically will thank parents every time they write something. If they express any criticism at all, it gives me a great way of following up with them. I remember one mom who gave us, rated us 10 out of 10, I think is the way it really looks, and then went and began to criticize a particular teacher, and it's a little awkward. But it gave me a heads up that this mom was happy with the school as a whole, but had a concern about something at the school. So this is a really neat tool. I've been very pleased with it. And I should also mention that I gave Barry I was going to say, the way you have them come out is not all at once.
Right. Yeah. This is a very sophisticated system for generating feedback, testimonials, and actual reviews online on portals like Google and Yelp. That's a real problem for schools and businesses. They need good reviews, a steady flow of them, and it's not easy to get them. Most people won't give reviews, and it's It's not easy to go around asking for them all the time. So this is a system that's extremely clever that just sort of automates a whole flow, and it's a silver bullet in my opinion for that issue. And a lot of people really make their buying decisions based on reviews. So it's not something you can ignore, or you should ignore either. So yeah, I'm really excited about this system, and I'm glad you are too. And it has a list of many benefits. One of them is actually SEO. You know, this content that appears is current, fresh content, and Google also recognizes the format of these as reviews. These pages often show up as review pages in Google search, and so there's really SEO benefit to this as well.
Terrific. So I guess that's it. We've run about 60 minutes over the normal hour we allot. I want to do a few quick reminders for everyone. And I want to thank you, Barry, for all of your time and for your wisdom. And you and I will look at when you're going to be free next, and we'll continue this series down in a few weeks when you're available next. So I want to remind everyone, one, there is a second webinar today that's going to start in about an hour and 14 minutes at 12:30 East Coast time. That is a repeat of Cindy Acker's presentation on how to be an effective advocate for Montessori education. And that, as Sophia knows, is equally valuable whether you're in Costa Rica or whether you're in Pennsylvania. Advocacy is advocacy, and that's getting the government officials to know about you, getting the businesses of your community to know you, getting a seat at the table so you can be talking to the people who make laws and regulations. We've had a tremendous amount of success with this over the years in places like South Africa and other countries where, thanks to the hard work of members of the Montessori Foundation and IMC, we've been able to get on board quickly, form alliances with other groups, and begin to shape regulation to be more, shall we say, Montessori friendly and supportive. I also want to remind you that we are starting up the weekly series again with today's webinar. We'll continue the series. Every week you're presumably getting an email or two a couple of days in advance, and probably the morning of, reminding you about the webinar. It's not telling you what the topic is. If there is one thing I wish GoToMeeting would enter into their system, it would be a way for us to be able to customize that. I hate to send out a general broadcast to everyone in the group. There are now more than 578 people who have signed up for this weekly series, and I try not to inundate you with email because there's so many other things happening from the Montessori Foundation all the time. But we do send it out. Next week, I think what I'm going to talk about is summer camps, summer programs for your Montessori school, or year-round programming. If you're interested, I'll be sending out an email reminder. And like you, I'm coming back from vacation and really just wrapping my head around what is next. So this free ongoing webinar series will continue all through the end of the year. Please send us feedback. If the time stinks for you and you wish we would do it differently, or if there are topics you want to suggest that we haven't covered already, please, or if you'd like to be a guest presenter on the webinar series, please let me know. My email address, as you probably know, is timselden@montessori.org. And finally, I want to let you know that the Montessori Foundation is working on something new that will be developed for the Center for Guided Montessori Studies, which is an actual Montessori accredited teacher education program that we helped to inspire and support get developed back some years ago. And that is the development of a formal administrator's credential in Montessori school leadership. MACD, the accrediting organization, is getting ready to begin to take our existing certification programs, such as AMS runs and the courses that are run by various AMI centers and NAMTA, and turn them into formal certification. So those of you who are school leaders, I think if you're not already certified, you need to know that it's beginning to head in a whole new direction. The courses that we offer now that are online, Building a World-Class Montessori School, which starts next term, is on January 17th. The Building Enrollment in School Community that starts that same date. The overview of Montessori theory and curriculum from infant, toddler through 12th grade, and the course on overview of Montessori curriculum. Let me think what that last one is. Oh, the last one is our board course. Those are all part and parcel of what will become formal training, especially Building a World-Class Montessori School. Anyone who takes that will be able to test out later after they've completed it and have that applied towards the formal certification program that we hope to begin about 1 year from today. So I'd say that's it for this week. This is Tim Selden and Barry Abrams. Barry, again, thank you so much for your time and everything you're doing on behalf of Montessori. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Look forward to having you with us again. And to all of you who are online, thank you so much for your continuing support and interest. We look forward to seeing you again soon. This is Tim Selden calling today's session to a close. Have a great day. We'll talk to some of you at 12:30 East Coast time for the webinar on Montessori advocacy.